Okay, so this is definitely one of my more harebrained ideas, but I noticed when I was putting the sound deadening material that the wires running to the window switches are pretty heavy gauge. And what that makes me think is that the window switch, which is conveniently located in the center console, is just a dumb switch for the window motors. And there's probably some smarts in the door with the window motor. But what I thought would be really nice is to not have to come up here, put the keys in the ignition, and press this button every time I wanted to adjust the window. Especially since these front windows are the only windows that I have that actually open on the van. It'd be nice to be able to open them while I'm sitting in the back without digging my keys out. So I've got this very cryptic factory service manual diagram, and I'm figuring out how this switch works and which pins correspond to which. And I think once I figure out for sure which way is up and down, I can actually power this with the house battery and just send power to one of these pins to go up, one of these pins to go down, and then this is the passenger side. Okay, so I've learned a lot about window switches this morning. I guess these labels might not make sense, but basically you have your motor plus minus, and then 2 ground pins and a hot. And this is a pretty standard 5-wire motor switch, window motor switch, and I think the 4th pin is for the ground for the illumination of the switch. Okay, so I think I've figured out what I need to do to make this work. Sorry, this diagram is terrible, but basically what I'm going to be doing is, this is the switch up in the cab. We're just looking at like one side of the system. So like, pretend this is the driver's side window motor. I need to cut the positive and the negative motor leads, right? So these are the leads that are going directly to the motor, and then wire them into a 2-pole double throw switch. I think I can probably get a 4-pole double throw switch for the whole system, and then also connect those to like basically an identical switch in my living space. And then this will be my house battery, and then I'll just have to ground those 2 pins. Same here, this will remain the car battery and those 2 pins. And then I should have a selector switch so I can get the control in the front and in the back. This means I'll need to run 8 wires from the center console back to where I'm gonna do this switch, which it'll be a lot to keep track of. I'm still on the fence of whether or not I want to do this, but I think I'm gonna do it actually. Why not? All right, so this is the moment of truth, so to speak. I have a hot wire from my house battery, and I think if I apply it to this pin, it should roll up the window. And that sort of proves the theory of my concept, and it makes me fairly confident that what I have planned will work. And if this doesn't work, I think I'm gonna give up, because I'm already, I don't know, this is already way more complicated than I thought it was going to be, but I'm also kind of having fun with this, and I think it'd be cool if I could make this work. So let's give it a go. Woo! All right, here are the labels for my 8 wires. The more I get into this, the more I think this is a bad idea, but I'm in too deep now. So here we go. Does that scare you? Because that scares me. What are the odds that this works on the first try? Well, I think, so in theory, we'll switch it to the back, which should activate these controls, and ready? Oh my gosh. And driver's side. That is too cool. All right, obviously I'll need to clean up that wiring, but it works. So now that I have this done, the question is, would I do it again? And I think the answer is yes, definitely. There are some disadvantages, of course. You are hacking into the factory wiring in your vehicle, which is not something that I love to do, but it should be easy to reverse if you need to, because it's just 4 wires that you're cutting and it's all localized to the center console. So that's kind of nice. And then I could be imagining it, but it seems like the window rolls up and down slower than it used to. And that would only make sense because I've added like 12 feet of wiring between the power source and the motor. So there's going to be some added resistance there. And then the other disadvantage is that if I leave this switch in the wrong position, then when I'm driving around, my window controls won't work. So that could be annoying in a like a drive-through situation, or if there's a bug I want to let out or something, right? That could be annoying. And what would be really cool is you could, instead of using this 4-gang switch, you could use automotive relays. But high quality automotive relays are expensive, and that would turn this $30 mod into a $120 mod. So I'm not going to do that, but I would love to see that. I think that would be super cool. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of how this turned out, and I haven't seen anyone else do this before, which is kind of surprising. I'm sure someone has. So if you've seen this before, let me know. I'd like to see who's done it before and how they did it. And because there's a lot of different ways you could wire up something like this, and I think I did it a good way, but I don't know. All right, if you want to see more weird van mods and eventually see me live in this tiny little van camper thing, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one. So as I was recording this video, I was also learning how this stuff works, and as a result of that, I think the information in this video is kind of hard to follow, so I just wanted to go over all of the technical aspects one more time. And so when you pull apart your center console, if you have a first-gen Transit Connect, you will see this connector. And so all that really matters here is you have pin 1, which I am calling motor positive, and pin 7, which I'm calling motor negative. And so if you apply power to pin 1 and ground out pin 7, the window will roll up, which is why I'm calling this motor positive. So it's like positive is the up direction. And vice versa, if you apply power to pin 7 and ground out pin 1, the motor will roll down. And this is without the physical switch in place. You're just looking at the connector. That's what the switch is doing to move the windows up and down. So this is basically what the wiring diagram looks like before we do any modification. We have the factory switch, and it is connected to the positive and negative motor leads directly. And then you have positive from your starter battery coming in, of course, when the key is in the ignition, and then a couple pins that are just grounded out. And so all we're doing is cutting these 2 motor leads right here and sending them to a double throw switch. So in one position, this double throw will just reconnect back to the motor, so it's like this doesn't exist. And then in the other position, we're connecting to an identical switch in the living space, and this switch is disconnected. And I think it's also worth mentioning, I'm powering this with my house battery, and for this to work, the house battery has to be grounded to the chassis. Otherwise, these pins don't do anything. Alternatively, you could run these pins to the negative of the house battery if you're not running a chassis ground, and I think that would work. So the magic piece of this puzzle is the 4-pole double throw switch, and all that is 4 double throw switches that activate on the same toggle. So it's pretty simple. In one position, you're connected to the cab switch, and in another position, you're connected to the house switch, and all of these 4 poles are independent, if that makes sense. And to go back to this piece, if you Google a universal power window switch, you should be able to find these to buy, and there's also wiring diagrams to go along with them, which I found really helpful. And I think it should probably go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyways, that by modifying your electrical system, you are taking some risk. Window motors are really expensive to replace, and you could potentially, if you do this wrong, send power somewhere that it's not supposed to be and blow up something else in your vehicle's electrical system. So I take no responsibility if you do this mod and break something, but I think it's pretty straightforward if you understand how it works, and pretty hard to mess up. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.